So here's some of them bales I got last week, and they were stored butted up against each other, and some kept half-ass okay, but now these bales, so these are 4x5 bales, and a 4x5 bale has 60% more volume in it than a 4x4. So, and I usually do 4x4s. That's why this is of consideration to me. So, and the average 4x5 first cutting grass mixed around bale, my part of the country, about 800 pounds if it's baled right. But if you get 4 inches of rot around the outside of a bale, I think on a 4x5, I think the chart I was looking at is about 35% waste. These bales have more than that. You see it on the face, it's deceiving. You see this bright face here, but this is really about where your good hay is. It's probably about 6 inches. A lot of this is rotted and musty, especially on the side of the bale. So these bales, when you pull these bales apart and feed them, you are already there's less hay in here than a 4x4 when I peel that outer crust off. So just to give you kind of a comparison on that there's less hay than a 4x4 bale. And so, on a 4x4, average is about 450, 500 pounds first cutting. So you've lost a good 60 to 70% of that bale. 60% of them bales sitting outside is gone. Now those bales are 2 years old though too. So, but the importance of covering up hay, I just can't stress it, just tarping them. I've got my good bales are over there tarped. And so you literally have just increased, by not covering your hay, you've increased the cost of production. You must be doubling your cost of production. I did $128 a ton this year for hay, and that was mainly because I had some big expenses, some input cost. Spent $13,000 rebuilding that white tractor, so that's all factored in there. And when I calculate my expenses, because I don't have any other off-farm income, that includes everything, my living expenses, everything. So that's a good, honest dollar value. So 14 degrees right now. We got down in the single digits last night. We still have not got down to 0 yet. I plowed snow for a buddy of mine last night, some commercial parking lots, and I came over here and rolled 1 bale of hay down the slope at about 5 in the morning of good quality hay, second cutting orchard grass alfalfa. And what they're doing, when they're on that good hay, that consumption just skyrockets because the digestibility is so much better, so it passes through their gut better and the dry matter intake's better. And then you got the cold weather. They're just really going through some hay. So I'm gonna roll out a crappy bale, one of those bales I just got, just for filler. And what they're doing, it's interesting for thermal cover. It wasn't windy or anything last night, but for thermal cover, they're getting down in this brush and they're hanging out on the leeward side of this of the hill here. So there's a lot of topography here that they are utilizing for thermal cover. Some of them were bedded down, like I say, it was cold temperatures, but it wasn't windy. Seems like the wind is what drives them. But some of them were bedded down over in here last night, because when they heard me unrolling that bale, they come out of these spots in here. And then some, because it was relatively warm, were just up on that hillside. But I've seen them way out in the open when there's been a big cold windstorm, because it's deceiving. Sometimes the wind from way over there on that ridge will actually be blocking the wind here. But I noticed cows, they really like to get out of the wind, you know, even more so than horses. But I got a lot of good topography here that they can use. So we'll roll another bale out for them. And I'm gonna roll those are two crappy bales. I'm gonna roll them down part way, not unroll them, and then put them in the round bale feeder, because being they already had a good bale of hay, this bad hay, they'll loaf around and use it for bedding if they're not real hungry. So, okay, we'll take a look at this. So these bales, I bale with sisal twine. So, and the big problem is when you're bale grazing is getting all that plastic twine off. It's a real hazard if you leave that twine out here. Cattle get it in their stomachs, get it caught around their legs and tendons. Wildlife gets caught up in it. It's horrible for the environment. You'll never see me using plastic twine. I know you guys can call me a hippie or whatever you guys want to call me. I can be called names. So, but the plastic twine, man, that freezes to these bales. And actually this bale kind of turned out better than I had thought. But there's still a good amount of rot here. Right here though in the center, this is pretty good. That's what fell off it right here. That fell off and they'll pick through that. So I guess not bad really for sitting out for 2 years. So I'll tip that round bale feeder up and put it in here. Well, let's say that's equivalent to a 4x4 bale, which it is. So that right there, then you've lost 60% of your hay, which is over half. So if your cost of production, let's just say your cost of production is $100 a ton, then your, which puts you at about $40 a round bale on a 4x5 just to make it, then you just increased your cost by 50%. You just made that $40 round bale $60 just to make by wasting half of the hay. So all in all, you get a good bright sunny day like this, it's really hitting the surfaces here and giving off a lot of heat. You can really so it'll be interesting. I haven't got over there and broke the ice on the water yet. We'll go over and check out the watering system. Of course, first big cold snap of the year, everybody's having trouble watering livestock. Why do you got ice cleats, they ask. Walked in the feed mill the other day. Because I gotta walk my ass down this steep slope every day. If I didn't have these cleats on, I'd be tumbling. So let's go see what the water's like. They were down here today already. Like I said, I was plowing snow, so I didn't. So they came and hit the water this morning already. Woo! They drunk that down. They drunk it right down. So, yeah. It's the lowest I've seen it in a while. So yeah, look at that. Open water. Starts pumping around daybreak, and the water sets on, warm lake water sets on top of that ice sheet, starts melting it. Just turned on the pumps to make sure manually they're both running. They're on timers. I've got weep holes right here where the water leaks out once it gets filled up. That prevents just a solid ice sheet from forming right at the top of the tank. And running during the day like this, you got bright sun, hell, them pumps are just running off the solar panels now. You don't even, you know, it's not, you don't got to worry about using up your battery capacity. Come on, Pop, move along. I think this is pretty cool to look at. So I'm out here the next day after I made that video with the round bales, and look in here and see, this is one of the bales, the weathered bales that are, you know, been sitting outside, and you can see what the cows picked at in here, and you can see the amount of crust, the waste. Gives you a pretty good example of that 4 to 6 inch wastage layer on the outside of the bale. I just flipped this bale upside down, and look at that. There you go. So that's greater than 50% loss. So in this case, looking at that, if it's costing you $100 a ton to make hay, this is over $200 a ton hay right here. $200 a ton, you can buy really good alfalfa hay at 200 bucks a ton, and that would include trucking. Getting it trucked in, you could get big squares, 1,000-pound bales, wherever you wanted. Nice alfalfa that would really put the weight gain on your cattle. It'd make them super fat. So at least in my climate, if you're gonna bale hay and do this, you should really be buying your hay. I don't even know how I'm getting these bales for next to nothing, obviously. And so it pays off economically, because my own bales, I could sell them for better money, and you can't do $128 a ton hay to feed the brood cows. Just doesn't pencil out at all.